even if he has or she has the right to argue. Powerful. He's not talking about arguing, for things that you have no clue about, or arguing about things that, subhanAllah, are petty and minuscule and infinitesimal and shouldn't. No. If you have the right to argue and you abandon arguing, you just let it go for the sake of Allah. And for your own sake, for your own peace of mind. Maybe the other person doesn't deserve, subhanAllah, all the goodness that you have to offer, but you definitely deserve the peace for yourself too. Just let it go, swallow it in, and just let it go. And the Prophet says, I guarantee you a house in paradise. SubhanAllah. Now when it comes to this nature of argumentation, this quality, where does it come from? Does it come from shaitan? Does it come from Allah? We asked a very similar question when it came to the khutbah pertaining to anger. And the answer is, of course, it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us individuals who are supposed to establish the earth. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away the jinn kind and replaced this earth with new vicegerents, and us serving as his khulafa, us serving as his vicegerents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed within us qualities of establishment. Qualities of inhabiting a place, of making a place livable. And a lot of these qualities include qualities of leadership and qualities of expression. The ability to express yourself. Allah says one of the most profound bounties He's given us is the ability to express ourselves, the art of speech. So naturally, it comes with us as a package of a human being. We come with the propensity to want to argue, to want to express our opinion, to want to explain ourselves, to come off as, I know what I'm doing. We come with that. And subhanAllah, because it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala programmed it within us, it definitely has to have two sides. And one of the sides is, when is it okay to argue? Is it okay to argue? And if so, when? If it's not okay to argue, when should I abandon argument? When it comes to it being okay to argue, I already mentioned the hadith. The Prophet says that even if you have the right to argue, even if you have the right to make your point and get your statement across, then too, if you abandon it, that's noble, that's wonderful of you. But then too, that leaves a lot of, subhanAllah, what if my rights are being usurped? What if, I'm not getting what I deserve? What is it a crime to fight for what's mine? SubhanAllah, all of these questions, if they start arising, then guess what? There are answers. And the answer is, number one, it is okay to argue. Ulama say, when? إِن كَانَ الْمِرَاءُ عَلَى مَوْضُوعٍ ذُو قِيمَةٍ وَظَاهِرٍ. If the argument is about something that's worth it. If the discussion, if the subject of the argument is of worth. And a lot of times we really confuse worth for appeasing our ego. A lot of times the purpose behind which we argue is, I just want, I have something to say, I just need to get it off my chest. But if it's something worth arguing about, and what defines it being worth arguing about? If it is going to lead to, subhanAllah, a lot of great goodness being spread out onto the earth, or if it's going to lead to, subhanAllah, a lot of harm being prevented, and a lot of perspectives are just differing, and they're very bewildering to one party or the other, subhanAllah, and they're just a genuine misunderstanding, then there's, it's totally permissible to argue it out, to come to the conclusion of a really worthy matter, and then within that worthy matter, within this, there's a clause, and that is, wallahi. It should be apparent. Meaning the conclusion of the argument shouldn't be so complex that it's left to an ethical standard of opinion. Now, when it comes to a matter of opinion being the standard of the conclusion of an argument, then that qualifies as something unclear and ambiguous and just confusing and complex. It's not something that's worth arguing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, فَلَا تُمَارِ فِيهِمْ إِلَّا مِرَاءً ظَاهِرًا. Do not argue with them. Do not indulge within, differing of opinions until it's something apparent. في ظاهر في صلب الأمور لا في فروعها. The scholars state that into the backbone of the matter should an argument take place, not into the derivatives and the small little articles around it which don't really matter as much. Now we see a little practice which is contrary to that, and that is within our scholars. Our scholars always, subhanAllah, seem to be fighting over where the placements of the hand should be in salah, whether Ameen should be said out loud, whether Fatiha should be recited behind the Imam or not. All of these things that they go back and forth about, there's different madahib about. The scholars are doing that because these derivatives are big matters for them. These derivatives are really big things for them because they're establishing Islamic jurisprudence and deriving it from the same exact source. No, all their opinions, they're not using different sources. We all have two standard sources, and that is the Quran, the Book of Allah, and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and subhanAllah, all the people who implemented that. That's our standard. And when they differ, when they go back and forth in their opinions as to what should be done, what shouldn't be done, what's a ruling, what's not a ruling, that is to establish laws for us to follow. So when they do that, it doesn't fall under the category of arguing over derivatives who don't really matter. But when it comes to, for example, arguments pertaining to the religion and derivatives, if someone else is doing something that is sunnah according to their particular scholars or their school of thought, that's not something that's worth arguing about. SubhanAllah, it's not something that's worth delving in. SubhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ one time noticed the Sahaba radiallahu anhum talking, and كنا نتذكر القرآن عند باب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Sahaba state that we were discussing the Quran near the door of the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. One of us was outdoing the other using verses of the Quran. We were arguing at the same time, substantiating our opinions using the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ came out, saw us in this state of arguing using the Quran. It's one of the worst forms of argumentation. When we get to what types of argumentation are not permissible, that's going to be number one. Arguing about the Quran or using the Quran. When he saw this, فَكَأَنَّهُ فُضِئَ فِي وَجْهِهِ حَبَّ الرُّمَّانِ. It was as if the Prophet ﷺ got so angry, so intensely angry, it's like somebody popped, pomegranate juice on his face. And that's how red he got out of anger. And he addressed them and he said, أَيْهَذَا بُعِثْتُمْ? Were you sent for this? Were you sent for this? And بِهَذَا أُمِرْتُمْ بِهِ? Were you commanded to do this? Use the Quran to just, substantiate your claims? SubhanAllah, and they were arguing about, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum are good people. We know they're probably not arguing about something to just, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the reason why he cut it out was because of the statement he said after. And that statement was, لا ترجعوا بعدي كفارا يضرب بعضكم عناق بعض or أضراب بعض. He said, this type of argumentation, using religion to back your personal opinion or what you feel should be a personal opinion, will lead to you killing one another later on. How true was the prophecy of the Prophet ﷺ? All these little splinter groups who claim Islam, they use the Quran to substantiate their violent and extreme and radical claims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا وَيَهْدِي بِهِ كَثِيرًا. This very Quran, if you constantly use it to appease your whims and desires, it can lead you off the straight path also. Just as it has the capability to guide people, it's meant as a book of guidance, but if you use it in the wrong way, you use it to substantiate your hawa, your desires, it will lead you off the straight path. So subhanAllah, argumentation for silly things that are silly when it comes to the actual big picture of the matter is something that the Prophet ﷺ even discouraged his companions from doing, and not just discouraged, he prohibited, reprimanded them, looked down upon the whole entire scenario, and said that this will lead to killing one another. So that's one form of argument that is allowed. Like, as long as it's about a big matter, there's oppression taking place here. Oh, how can we get together, argue back and forth to see how we can provide a lot of good for the community? And the argument is so that the actual good can come out, so the actual bad can stop, not to prove your point. So that's one type of argumentation that's okay, as long as it doesn't get into derivatives and that's the small little matters which don't really make a difference. And the next thing is, when it comes to argumentation, it must be done بالعلم والبصيرة في موضوع الجدل, with knowledge and insight about the subject of the argument. Nowadays, everybody just wants to have hot takes. SubhanAllah, their personal opinions on everything, without any knowledge about that particular matter. If a layman walks into a group, and the group consists primarily of physicians, and they're arguing about some medical matter, he offers his opinion, how foolish would that look? How foolish would that look? How insulting would that be to the profession of medicine? That person can claim all they want. I've researched, I've looked it up online, I know this, I know how the body works. SubhanAllah, have you studied? Knowledge in general was something that was meant to be passed on heart to heart. The Prophet ﷺ was taught through Jibreel ﷺ, through somebody who's also, when it comes to fadila and virtue, somebody who's even beneath him. SubhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ was taught in this particular manner to show that that's how knowledge works. So a lot of times when it comes to us arguing about something, if you professionally have an opinion which you strongly feel that this is going to make a difference, and you want to argue it out with somebody who is also on a similar level of knowledge as you, pertaining to any matter, that prerequisite, that condition, remember, must be there. Knowledge about the particular subject that is being argued about. For example, Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik rahimahullah got into it. The first time, the only time Imam Abu Hanifa met Imam Malik, because Imam Malik was born a little bit after. Imam Abu Hanifa lived all the way in Iraq, and Imam Malik lived in Medina. And Imam Malik had this quality about him: he never liked to leave Medina. He liked to stay in Medina, unless he had to. One time when he had to go for Hajj, then he went for Mecca. But SubhanAllah, he loved to stay in Medina because of his love of the Prophet ﷺ. Nevertheless, when Imam Abu Hanifa came to visit Medina, him and Imam Malik ran into one another. And guess what? They both have a gargantuan body of students that are like, SubhanAllah, ride or dies. Die-hard followers. They went into the room, and they went in right after Salat al-Isha, and they came out right after Salat al-Fajr. And the students heard back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When they came out, guess what? They were even sweating. They were sweating. That's how intense the argument got. But guess what? SubhanAllah, when they walked off, Imam Abu Hanifa hugged Imam Malik and said, very nice things about him. And as soon as he departed, Imam Malik looked and he's like, I heard a lot of things about these people, the people of opinion, the people of Abu Hanifa. But guess what? That man is upon the truth. Because they were trying to come down to him, even if I don't agree with you. But SubhanAllah, because they both had the caliber to go back and forth in that particular manner, they arrived at a conclusion which was mutual respect. But if one party is arguing without knowledge, SubhanAllah, the other party is automatically going to lose respect. There's going to be no mutual respect as the conclusion if knowledge is not part of the argument. And not perceived knowledge, actual knowledge. And the next thing is, when it comes to permissible argumentation, is the argument should be done in a manner where, SubhanAllah, it shouldn't come off as mean. It should be done in a very polite way. Like a lot of you might be wondering, how do you argue politely? You don't need to get loud. You don't need to emphasize your statement using cuss words. You don't need to, SubhanAllah, make your point in such a way which humiliates and disgraces another person. You can let them down gently. And, usually why people love arguing is to give off the facade of intelligence, even if there isn't real intelligence there. If you really are intelligent, you will know how to construct an argument in such a way where your point gets across and you don't hurt feelings at the same time. Allah even says, when it comes to even the people who don't believe in Islam, people whose ideas which we really don't concur with, Ahlul Kitab, people who really believe that, subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a son. Even as ridiculous of an idea as that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. When it comes to the disbelievers, the people of the book, don't even engage into arguments or debates with them unless it's in a very nice way. Unless it's in a very, very nice way. It's very soft, compassionate. And subhanAllah, there has to be a show of sincerity with the one who you're arguing with. You have to make each other understand that you're not arguing for personal agenda, or personal gain, or personal intellectual standard. No, you're arguing to arrive at a true and an apt and correct conclusion. Which is why, when it comes to sincerity, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah used to say very beautifully that I would always want the truth to come out on the tongue of my opponent. The reason why is because, subhanAllah, I don't want any credit, but I also want the truth to be out there. And because of this wonderful sincerity that he had, Allah never allowed him to lose any debate in his life. Because he was really that sincere. SubhanAllah, when it comes to impermissible arguments, we already mentioned one of the first step of being arguing with things about the Quran, the book of Allah, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are things that, subhanAllah, when it comes to your personal opinions and how you want to live your life, all of that's there. But if you're doing something that's wrong and then you're trying to look within the Quran to justify the wrong and use that as your arguing mechanism, as your arsenal, as your weaponry to fire at somebody who's trying to advise you that this is wrong, then that's the worst form of argumentation that the Prophet ﷺ ridiculed in the most harshest of tones. And he said that type of argumentation will lead to you killing one another. And that prophecy has come more than true today. Unfortunately, very sad. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. And then another type of argument which is impermissible is khusum bil-batil, arguing about things which are false to begin with. You understand? I'm guilty of it, a lot of us are guilty of it. We argue about dumb things. You know what I'm saying? We get really heated about dumb things. We get really heated in arguments about foolish things which don't really matter, which are falsehood to begin with. We argue about things like, who's a better actor? That's falsehood to begin with. It's fictitious to begin with. And we get really heated with one another, use really bad words, arguing about sports. SubhanAllah, it's very common in our culture. Like, you watch ESPN, you watch, all these folks arguing about sports, and then watching it is one thing, that's whatever. But when it comes to using that and equipping yourself with some superficial knowledge about a particular sport, or something that doesn't really have anything to do with anything, and then just go back and forth and make a foe out of a friend for that's really ridiculous. Friendly, fun rivalry here and there, whatever, it's fine. But when it gets so serious where you really do dislike a person because of a foolish affiliation they have to a superficial industry, then subhanAllah, that is another impermissible form of argumentation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from foolish debates and foolish arguments which have no meaning to our lives. And another thing when it comes to impermissible argumentation is, again, arguing without knowledge. Permissible arguments, like we mentioned, this is the complete opposite. With knowledge, it's permissible. Without knowledge, impermissible to argue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلِمَ تُحَاجِجْتُمْ فِيمَا لَيْسَ لَكُمْ بِهِ عِلْمٍ فَلِمَ تُحَاجُونَ فِيمَا لَيْسَ لَكُمْ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Why are you arguing in things that you have no knowledge about? Why do you delve into, subhanAllah, I used the physician example before. Now, for example, if somebody steps in and a room full of architects is, just arguing as to how this needs to be done, and a random person just comes in and, offers his hot take or her hot take on, how it's supposed to be, it'll look really, really foolish. Unfortunately, when it comes to our Muslim ummah, All that stuff we kind of respect. The physicians, the lawyers, engineers. The only time when we really want to have strong opinions is about religion. We love delving into religious debates, religious ideas, religious this, religious that. And we like to justify our delving into these form of arguments by stating very, very simply, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah is saying, we have made the Quran very easy for you to understand. But guess what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say for you to understand. He said لِلذِّكْرِ, for you to remember and reflect upon its meaning, reflecting upon its reminders. Because the Quran, although it's a book of legality and jurisprudence, it's also a book of guidance and remembrance and reflection. When it comes to all the stories that Allah mentions in the Quran, when it comes to all the warnings that Allah mentions in the Quran, when it comes to all the glad tidings Allah mentions in the Quran, all of that is for all of us to reflect on, just read, think about it. And, when it comes to the complex matters, there are complex matters because jurisprudence is never something that's very simple. It's not child's play. People don't go and study for so long in Islamic institutions for fun. For them to come back and us to just tell them that, okay, so that's your opinion, but this is my opinion also. When it comes to seeking religious knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say, open up the Quran, open up. No, He says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of remembrance if you don't know. Ask the ulama. They're not going to explain to you what they feel. They're going to explain to you what Allah is telling you. Which you, subhanAllah, if you haven't studied it, that's not your field. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're a fool. It doesn't mean you don't have a brain that you're not using. It just means that that's not your field. لِكُلِّ فَنٍّ رِجَالٌ. Every field has their experts. We all want to just sit down at parties and bring up a subject of what we feel should be haram, what we feel should be halal. And guess what? There's no scholars involved there. There's just us. Whatever little bits and pieces of knowledge that we've collected from here and there. And subhanAllah, Allah says, why are you doing this? You have no knowledge about this. Knowledge is something that, subhanAllah, even after years and years and years of learning, these scholars in the past would say, I don't know anything. Imam Malik wouldn't be shy to tell somebody 40 times in a row, I don't know. A scholar like Malik bin Anas, who am I and who are you? So subhanAllah, when it comes to arguing about things which we have no knowledge about, that's a really impermissible form of argumentation. And another element of impermissible argumentation is arguing without necessity. After you've established your point, there's no need to, crown it or add some spices to it and add some feistiness to it and add some, bad words to it or add some form of humiliating, smart remarks to it. There's no need for that. SubhanAllah, all that does is create animosity in hearts. All that does is allow the other individual to understand that you're just trying to beat them. And when these things creep their way into our arguments, and they have, I'm just going to close off by talking about how we can get rid of them, but guess what? They have crept into them. What that leads is to addiction. Addiction. We argue for the sake of arguing because we feel like there's an urge inside of us. I just need to argue. Because we love the feeling of sounding right, of seeming right. We love when we come up with a smart thought, like, oh, I think really smart. SubhanAllah, we love that feeling. And it becomes an addiction. It becomes really hard for us to let go. And that leads to us doing absolutely nothing and just talking and blathering about. And blathering about with absolute hogwash, which has no benefit. And subhanAllah, Al-Awza'i rahimahullah say very, very beautifully, إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ شَرًّا أَلْزَمَهُمُ الْجَهْلِ وَمَنَعَهُمُ الْعَمْلِ. When Allah wants evil for a society, for a nation, then He makes them love arguing and not doing anything about it. Love arguing and doing nothing about it. I'm going to close off with this last story of Umar bin Khattab, although I had a lot of stuff planned for the next part of the hadith. Inshallah, we'll save that for another khutbah. But this one very beautiful action for Umar bin Khattab was so powerful. He was going around patrolling in the nights of Medina. Imagine a governor who does that himself. And he found a lady who was crying there. Her baby was crying there. He said, lull the baby. People are trying to sleep. So then she tried. She said, okay, no problem. She'll try. He came back to her because the baby just wouldn't stop crying. He said, Inni araka umma su'in. I think you're a bad mother. Because give the baby milk. You know what I'm saying? I see, okay, at least if you were trying to, and he's still not calming down, that's it. You're not even giving milk. I see you're a bad mother. So she says, nah, there's this Khalifa guy. She didn't know she was talking to Umar bin Khattab. She's like, this Khalifa guy, he only stipulates child tax allowances for people who have their babies weaned off. So I'm trying to wean my baby off early. Umar bin Khattab was so shook by that. He trembled inside. A man as firm, as strong as Umar trembled. And he said, sister, please continue feeding the baby. I'm out. And his partner on his way to Fajr Salah asked him, what happened? He didn't even say anything. When he started leading the prayer, people couldn't even understand what he was reciting. They couldn't even understand that he was reciting the Quran or not because of how terribly he was crying. Right after the khutbah, right after the Fajr, he gets up, starts delivering a khutbah, and the khutbah is addressing and admonishing himself. Oh, Umar, you guys look up to Umar and call me Amirul Mu'mineen. I call myself a butcher. كم قتلت من أولاد المسلمين. How many children have you killed on account of this stupid law of yours? SubhanAllah, he's admonishing himself in the harshest of terms. He could have said, oh, lady, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm the first one who stipulated child tax to begin with. Be grateful. No. SubhanAllah, she said something, proved her point. Umar went back and did something about it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be as persistent in terms of trying to uncover the truth and implementing it in our lives as well.